So 2021, I know we're doing all this stuff virtual now because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Well, I'll tell you, 10 years ago, I was in the middle of a personal pandemic. In the span of a few days, my entire life fell apart. Okay, I lost everything really quickly. I drove home from work one night. My wife was waiting for me outside the front porch of her house, crying and tears and just saying, Neil, I don't know if this marriage is going to work for me. I don't know if I'm in love with you anymore. I got to be honest with you. I got to be courageous with you. And I just don't think this is it for me. I know a lot of you have been in a situation where you lose a long-term relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It was like shock for me. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're going to have to sell this house. We're going to have to, I guess I'm going to have to move. I mean, it's just like a total shock. And I didn't even have time to process that shock because 3 days later, something worse happened. My best friend, Chris, who I spoke to almost every night, he was a vice principal down in Washington, D.C. I didn't hear from him one day, and I got a phone call the next morning from his sister to tell me that Chris had very suddenly taken his own life. And I hate to throw such a heavy brick into this positive and uplifting conversation we're having, but we're not talking about suicide enough in this country. We're not. It's the #2 cause of death in Canada right now, guys, for people under age 29 after car accidents. Okay, #2. Okay, do me a favor, and just to be a little vulnerable today, this morning, would you throw a yes in the chat room if you've ever lost a friend or a family member from a suicide, or you've ever been on the unfortunate end of losing a long-term relationship? Who else has experienced one of those two things in their life? Camille, Josiane, I appreciate your vulnerability, guys, more than once. Yes to the suicide, says Lynn. Heart emoji. Thank you, Brooke. Alicia, unfortunately, yes. You guys can see, look, there's 93 of us here, and we're getting like a huge flow in the chat. I was destitute. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I got bags under my eyes. Of course, everybody at work's like, you look great, man. What's your secret? Okay. That's what we do when someone dramatically loses weight. Okay. Vicky, thank you for your vulnerability. More than one friend, sister, Ramon, attempts by family members. Guys, it's out there. We're not talking about it. Murder's always on the cover of the newspaper, 6 out of 100,000. That's the murder rate in Canada. And suicide rate is 18 per 100,000, 3 times more. You are the most dangerous person to yourself, which is why conversations like this one we're having right now are so important. How do we check in with each other and take care of each other? I am looking for an apartment. I'm filing a divorce. I'm writing a eulogy. I am like just a shell of myself. And of course, if I go online to the online world, that's not necessarily good. You know, I know we're all living in that online world right now, but it's like, what's the whole point of the online world? It's like, feed your negativity, right? Like feed your negativity, so your amygdala, that old almond way in the deep recesses of your brain, has been evolving for 300,000 years. This thing's attracted to fight or flight. You're going to look at it. You're going to look at controversy. You're going to look at bad news. You can't not. Of course, that's how they feed you more advertisements, and you can't stop looking at it. So I have to take matters into my own hands. And when it comes to your positivity, that's what we all need to do. I go online, I type how to start a blog into Google. I start a little website called 1000awesomethings.com. No one reads it except for my mom. She forwards it to my dad, and my traffic doubles overnight. And then one day I get tens of hits. And then one day I get dozens, and then hundreds, and then thousands, and then millions. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I get a phone call. And the voice at the other end of the line says, you just won the best blog in the world award. I'm like, that sounds totally fake. Turns out it was real. It was the International Academy of Digital Arts and Sciences. They wanted to turn my blog, 1000awesomethings.com, into a book called The Book of Awesome. No need to get this thing, guys. It literally just is my blog, printed out and stapled together. Now it's pandemic time, so I got a pandemic book. You guys all got this mailed to you. I know, I've been seeing it on social media. Thanks for the shout outs. I've been watching you. I'm addicted to it too. It's called You Are Awesome. The subheadline is The Secret: How to Navigate Change, Wrestle with Failure, and Live an Intentional Life. So how do we do that? We're all hanging out this morning. Some of you, it's 5 in the morning if you're in Hawaii, 7 a.m. if you're in Vancouver, 10 a.m. if you're here, maybe a little later if you're out east. Okay, so this little thing of all these books, and it won't focus because my head's in the frame. I got to move my head out because the camera likes my head. Weird. The summary of all 3 books is this: The model you've been taught for how to be happy since you were a kid is wrong. Your parents lied to you. They said if you do great work, then you'll have a big success and then you'll be happy. Does this sound familiar to anybody? If you study really hard, then you'll get straight A's and you'll become a doctor, okay? Don't tell me that was just my parents. Who else heard that, okay? It's not just our parents. Don't we say this if you're our parent? Come on, we want you to get into a good school. We want you to get a good job. We want you to be happy. But unfortunately, after reviewing 300 studies, I can tell you this model is fundamentally reversed. We actually need to train our brains to be happy first, then we do great work. How do we do that? Well, Sonia Lyubomirsky at Stanford says if you can train your brain to be happy, you're 31% more productive, you're 37% more creative, you have 3 times or 300% more creativity than your peers. And then what happens at the end of that? Big success.